This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for stopping by.
Hello.
Josh and I are at it again. This is Josh Has Autism, and we're so happy that you're here hanging out with us. Yeah. So, I got a little confused because I thought we didn't do one last week, but we did. We didn't do one 2 weeks ago when it was Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because we were busy stuffing our fat faces.
We don't have fat faces.
we don't have fat faces. That day we did, I imagine. I know I did because I made some vegan stuffing. Mm-hmm. Which I guess technically it's not stuffing because it was only stuffed in my face. So
that's still stuffing.
Yeah, that's still stuffing. So a whole bunch of vegan stuff. Bug made a vegan, I think it was zucchini squash pie, something like that.
I don't
know. It was delicious.
I didn't have any.
I know. People, you did try my vegan spaghetti the other night. You thought it was gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like it. It's good stuff. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're back at it. And, I wanted to talk to you today about something that we talked about last week on the podcast. We were talking about how, at the point that you are in life right now is a time when you want to be independent. And I want you to be independent. Mm-hmm. And that would work well for both of us. Mm-hmm. And it made a lot of sense, and yet I think that the reality of that is that it seems like that you really need the connection that we've got. Okay, I'll say it. You have a job, mm-hmm. and I'm so happy that you have this job. So, just by nature of the position that you have, a part of that is window cleaning. Mm-hmm. Part of that is pressure washing. Mm-hmm. Well, when you do pressure washing, it's at the evening hours overnight hours, because it's for businesses and they're closed at night.
Right.
If you did it during the day, it would interfere with their customers.
Yeah.
And their ability to make money. Mm-hmm. So you do it at night. It makes total sense. We've already talked too about that you work for a company that all of the employees are autistic, which I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but it does seem the things that I've heard and from knowing you is that nighttime you don't always sleep. It's can be a very, very difficult thing to happen. You more often than not have a hard time sleeping at night. Mm. So you staying up and doing that overnight is not really a stretch. Right. Because you're going to be up already anyway. Right. If you were home in your bedroom, more than likely you're going to be up. So it works. And you have a boss that's very cool, mm-hmm. Understands your needs and
difficulties.
And honors them. Yeah. And respects them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, having said that you work overnight, and because you're awake, I don't work overnight because I like to be asleep. Well, the other night, you called me at midnight, mm-hmm. and then you called me at 1:45, and then you called me at 4:45.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason this got my attention, I was thinking about it, is because this came right after last week. We just talked about not being glued at the hip, and this separation. Yeah. And yet, the reason you called is because the first call, you told me you were feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I was having a bit of a panic attack.
What was going on?
We were pressure washing, we had just started that up, mm-hmm. and I started stressing about everything, it seemed like. Mm-hmm. And it really overwhelmed my senses. Mm-hmm. It overwhelmed my mind. And it was very difficult for me to process anything like that.
Right.
And so I called you, and you were able to talk me through calming myself down and making it so that I could go back to work.
And did it work?
Yes.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
It certainly didn't help that I had a cold that night.
You were sick, yeah.
Yeah. I ended up throwing up 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happened when you called was that, that night is not the night that you threw up. You got sick to your stomach the next night. That night you were just congested and didn't feel good. You worked the next night and got sick. But the first night you had called and you were just, first of all, you were overwhelmed. And we talked for a while, and essentially, I reminded you to take deep breaths. One of the things that happens to you is that when you're feeling overloaded, you begin to feel overwhelmed, and when you begin to feel overwhelmed, your sensory issues are just through the roof on high alert.
Yeah.
And so it's for the same reason that when you were younger, you liked the feeling of silky material. It's soothing.
Yeah.
You like the feel of really smooth rocks.
Yeah.
So sometimes you would have a real smooth stone in your pocket, or something that we found that for a while you had a little patch of like satin. That was in your pocket.
I had a coin at one point too that was very soothing to me to rub across the face of it.
And when you were in school, you would flip your pencil, which is a form of stemming. And
could you elaborate what stemming is?
Yes, I sure can. So it's a way for people on the spectrum to soothe themselves. And it's like a lot of times during stress or anxiety, and it's basically due to sensory processing issues.
Okay.
So a lot of stuff coming in. How are you going to work through it? How are you going to process that? How can you make sense of that? And when that's feeling a bit much, you begin to feel overwhelmed, and that was your way of doing it, pencil flipping.
It ended up becoming a capped pen because I stabbed myself several times while catching it.
Yeah. So other things would be stemming, would include hand flapping and rocking, excessive or hard blinking, pacing, head banging, repeated noises or words.
I don't. Those things, I don't think I did much of, if any. But the flipping of the pen would definitely be considered what you're talking about stemming is.
Now, when you were younger, you did a lot of screeching.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, a lot of screeching. And you and I have talked about this before. So you were born in California, right by San Diego.
Yeah.
And your dad was in the Navy, and we got transferred over to Florida. And what that meant is that we moved when you were just a baby. You were only a couple months old. And so it was you, me, and Dad. And, I didn't know what babies did. I didn't know what, so the screeching, I never, I didn't have a point of reference. I just thought all babies must screech. But, later on I found out that wasn't the case.
No.
So, anyway, so you would, in school, all the way through school, you would flip the pencil and then the pen, and even into college.
Yeah.
So
even now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's your way of calming yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the reason that that's helpful to you is because when you're feeling overwhelmed, that's a way that you can. It's called stemming, but it was flipping a pencil helps you to calm down. And clearly, you didn't have a pencil when you were at work the other day.
Yeah. I will say this much about the flipping of the pencil.
Mm-hmm.
I had several teachers come up to me and say, I am completely fascinated every time you do this.
Because you got very good at it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Very good at it. Yeah, I mean, if I try to do what you do, I'm going to, lose an eye or something.
You'd flip it over your shoulder.
Oh, yeah. Just like that. Right. But the other day, when you called and you were overwhelmed, it's because, for one, yes, you didn't feel good. Physically. Mm-hmm. You had a cold. And you were being asked to fulfill responsibilities that were hard.
Mm-hmm.
And what made, I think, you feel overwhelmed is that you were, because you were overwhelmed, everything is enhanced. Mm. All of the noises, all of the conversations, all of the demands. So from you moving one thing to the one place to the next place, to you following a sequential order of steps in whatever it is that you do.
Right.
You have to do things in a certain way in order for it to work.
Right.
All of those things begin to get they begin to get lost. This is just my observation. I'm using these words not that you've said these words to me, but that is my observation. Okay. It's almost that you seem that you're so overwhelmed that even things that you know are kind of gone.
Yeah.
Or unattainable, just kind of out of reach.
Yeah.
And so when you called the other day, one of the things that came out was, so I had you stop and just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I had you take a few deep breaths. What I told you to do is to breathe through your nose and to put the tip of your tongue, the roof of your mouth right behind your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Breathe in your nose and exhale through your mouth with your tongue still up in that spot.
Yeah.
And what that does is it helps to balance your body energetically.
Uh-huh.
And normally...
It certainly doesn't help that I had a cold.
It doesn't. Right, I know. And so I told you then, if you have to breathe in through your mouth, you do.
Yeah.
But do your best to breathe out of your nose. But that's a way to balance yourself. And I knew that you were really overwhelmed because most of the time when I talk to you about energy, you kind of roll your eyes at me and make a joke, tease me a little bit. But you listened. And instead of, us butting up one against one another with a, belief system here,
mm-hmm.
you did it. And you began to calm down. And then you had mentioned that the sound of the machine is so loud. The sound that was going on was so loud, and you can't get away from it. So my recommendation to you was, as you're working, to focus right off the bat on the patterns, because patterns are soothing to you.
Mm-hmm.
They make sense of your world.
Yeah.
And so that was my recommendation, is that you focused on the patterns in order to try to alleviate that sound that was bothering you. I suggested that you sing or you hum, because that's something that you do naturally anyway.
Mm-hmm.
At any given time, I can hear you singing or humming.
Yeah.
And so it's a way for you to, kind of go inward and focus on just what's right in front of you, what you have control over, mm-hmm. rather than focusing on all of these things that you can't. So it was cold, it was loud, it was you didn't feel good, you were being told that you got to do this.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to do any of it. You did right then.
Right.
You wanted to be in bed.
Yeah.
You know? And so, and I don't remember what else we talked about.
Let me think. It was mainly you just soothing me.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to make sure I was okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then, so that seemed to be, like when we got off the phone, you seemed to be calmer, to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back to sleep, and you called at 1:45.
Mm-hmm.
And you seemed to be feeling a little bit better, but you didn't feel good, so I made some recommendations on what you could do physically, you know, which involved that, you know, from when you go from one place to the next place, you know, have the guys stop and, you know, maybe get yourself some Dayquil, not NyQuil,
Right.
because that's going to make you go to sleep, but Dayquil to help with the stuffiness.
Yeah.
The next time you called was 4:45 in the morning, and I have no idea. Oh, it was something about I had to look something up online. I had to do something to see
The
about
money.
the bank account. Yes, yes. So,
I totally did not want to call you for that, but I knew that I had to because
just to the situation. For
Yeah.
some reason, there you needed to have $20 for something,
for gas,
and
so that we could actually get out of there.
yeah. And I remember thinking, well, the company has the company puts gas in there. So it was a confusing conversation to me, and but then that was it.
Yeah.
And then I didn't hear from you until the next day.
Right.
And after you had slept all day.
Yeah.
And then you said you felt a lot better.
And then I threw up 3 times.
Exactly. That was, and yes, and I have a theory about that. My thought about that is that a lot of times when you have so much congestion, it ends up draining down and it hits your stomach and it just makes you feel nauseous. So I think it's probably what was happening. But anyway, yeah. So we had just talked about being separate, and the first night that you're away, you called a few times,
Yeah.
and you know it's just the way that it is. You know, I don't want to give people the impression that when I say that I don't want to be, you know, I don't want us to be stuck together like that, you say you don't want that. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Right.
Because it does happen, and when it does, it's something that we just step into, and because we've done it so many times, it's just the way it is. And I'm happy to be able to be there for you when you need me. I'm very happy about that.
Me too.
And I'm glad that it helped the other night. And I one thing that I wanted to mention about that is that you never know when you're going to need that support. I never know when you're going to need that support. And because of that, it leads a lot of times to us working close together in any given situation, building up to times when you're going to be on your own, in order for you to feel balanced and capable. And that made me think about stuff when you were growing up. And it's interesting to me because even now we spend a lot of time talking about what you're capable of. And when you were growing up, I made it a point to not to talk about your, I'll put this in quotes, failures in front of you, because I don't buy into the idea that your actions were wrong just because they were different. Right? So other people might put that in the category that you were being bad, or that you were wrong, or this was a failure or whatever, and I just never looked at it that way. They were different, yes. Your approach was different, that doesn't mean that it's wrong or inaccurate.
Right.
And so
the way that you're explaining it reminds me of Thomas Edison whenever he was making light bulbs. What was the quote? I didn't fail 500 times or however many times it was to make a light bulb. I found such and such amount of times how not to make one.
Right. Well, I think specifically the reason that I did that is that we would go to therapists,
mm-hmm.
and I remember being very aware that I didn't want to talk about the difficult things that the teachers had talked to me about, and the principals had talked to me about, and the counselors at school had talked to me about, and the nurse had talked to me about, because I guess I had in mind that you have your day filled with other students telling you what you couldn't do. You know what I mean? Like
mm-hmm.
like they were really rough. It was tough. It was a tough time for you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to add to that, and I also didn't want to put in your head all the time the things that it's sort of like we were doing behind the scenes to help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I thought about that, and I thought about when we were talking about letting go, we were talking about this separation, that, I don't know. I don't know how I would have done it differently. I know that I could have done it better. I mean, because anytime you look back, you can then see things and how they worked out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was something that helped you or it didn't. But I just felt like, why do you need to hear all the negative stuff that everybody is talking to me about every day when I can address that with the counselor without you hearing it, and then they can help you to hopefully put into action some behaviors and
right.
patterns that work for you.
Right.
And oftentimes too, I mean, I didn't know did it warrant a medication change? Because for a long time, medication, especially when you were growing up, not so much now, because now the medication that you're on is pretty stable. It
mm-hmm.
has been for a while.
Yeah.
But while anybody's growing up, their hormones are changing so much that what medication works, it was literally this fast. What medication works now, didn't work for you sometimes 2 weeks later or a month later.
Right.
Trying new things, and it was a point in time where medications were being tried and to see how they would help.
Let's talk about something else.
Other than medicine?
No, other than hormones.
Oh. Okay. Well, what I did when you were growing up was try to focus on the positive.
Mm-hmm.
And you did get in trouble. As we mentioned, I think that was last week as well. You were not allowed to be disrespectful. You're not allowed to yell. You're not allowed to swear at us. There were things that we had conversations that went, understand if something doesn't feel right to you. Understand if you're feeling upset. But society says that there are certain ways that you can behave which would, kind of ensure you don't get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kind of things that I want to really try to instill in you. And it kind of went along with not pointing out every negative thing that I was told about you every day, and realizing that the negatives that you get told by the other kids, the way you got treated, and had basketballs thrown at your face, and all of those things. I didn't want to add to it.
Yeah.
And I thought this because, and hold on with me here because I know what you're going to think. What I know is that the thing about negative and positive I mean, there's a real thing about that. I was reading something, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And this is what I did basically how I was raising you. And so there's I was reading that the effects of positive and negative comments on children's creative writing. And you love writing.
Yeah.
It's your favorite thing. So I thought that... So let me just read this to you. So it says, to determine whether negative or positive criticisms written on children's creative writing would affect the mean number of words and sentences produced, a study was conducted with 31 fourth grade children. The children were divided into two groups. Those whose creative writing would receive negative comments, and those whose writing would receive positive comments, regardless of the quality of writing. Sounds pretty jerkish to me right away.
Yeah.
Some of the...
how did they get the even numbers out of 31 students?
Yeah, I know. Some of the assignments were topics chosen by the teacher, while some were chosen by the individual students. In the first of 8 20-minute writing sessions, 24 of the subjects indicated that they liked creative writing, 1 indicated that he did not like it, and 6 indicated that they sometimes liked writing. These feelings remained essentially the same throughout the session. There were no statistically significant differences found in the number of words and sentences produced by the subjects, but the comments affected the subjects' self-esteem and feelings about writing. Those receiving negative comments, even after really attempting to improve their work, exhibited lower self-esteem, lack of pride in their work, and very tense body language, while those receiving positive comments were relaxed, smiling, and confident. And
so that makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Almost like common sense.
Right.
But
yeah,
for a study to just say
to be jerks to kids like that. Like, which one of you are we gonna ruin your day and your week, and you're gonna have to go to the counseling later on. Right.
That's just messed up.
It is messed up. It is, but this kind of leads me into the way that of thinking that I wanted to really bring up to you today, which is that while you were growing up, I shielded you from an awful lot of things, and I tried to promote the positive. And some people have kind of let me know that they feel like that I'm babying you, that I'm not allowing you to be who you can be, and that came from my behaviors anyway, from keeping the negatives from you, was my way of helping you to become the best you that you could be.
Yeah.
And this study, I'm quoting that because it is the way that it works.
Yeah.
If you hear negatives and only negatives, you're going to feel pretty crummy about yourself.
Yeah.
If you hear positives, you're going to feel kind of empowered and able to accomplish something.
Yeah.
And
which, whenever I first started college, I was used to things being great at school. I was used, maybe not with the other students sometimes, but I was used to getting good grades. I was used to just knowing how to do stuff. Then I started college, and I think I got 1 B, 1 A. The rest were lower.
Right. So it was shocking.
Yeah. It was shocking, and it was, what do I do?
Right.
And
yeah. And that's a good description, I think, of what it feels like for kiddos on the autistic spectrum. From growing up, there's hardships, and yet for you anyway, you had a lot of insulation. You had learning support. You had, you were in a really good school, in a really good school district. And,
still had basketballs in the face.
Yeah.
But.
even still, right. Yeah. You had the TSS that met you at school, stayed with you all day, and, and people that came to the home, all that kind of stuff that were by design was to help you to do well in school.
Yeah, and life.
And life, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And yet, when you got out of high school, you were so insulated. And I just, the way I put it is that you were like in a cocoon.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't know that it was an adaptation for me to be able to verbally give you tests at home.
Mm. We
just did that.
Yeah.
You didn't know that you were given extra time for assignments, and I think about it now. Those kind of things I didn't try to keep from you. And I wouldn't have said to you, I wouldn't have, said, shh, don't tell him that I'm going to give him the test at home, because I remember telling you it's easier for you to take the tests verbally. So the teacher, has said that it's okay that we do it this way.
Yeah.
Do you feel good about that? You did, so that's how we did the tests.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there enough that they knew that, whatever we turned in, whatever you turned in was legitimate, that you did it.
Yeah.
Those were your answers. So there was just an awful lot that was in place, in efforts to help you to be successful. And then when you got out of high school and you're out of that cocoon, like you're on your own, you're like shell-shocked. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And it was so overwhelming, and our best efforts kind of worked too well. And then when you went into college, there was some learning support person that was there, but it was more of a place that you could go.
Right. It was hands off,
pretty much,
rather than being right there, hands on.
Yeah. So that was a difficult time.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because I hear parents talk about the things that they're doing for their kids, and it's a difficult. It can be a difficult journey because I felt like I was doing the right thing, and I still I don't want to. I'm just not the kind of person that goes around and points out everything negative. Now I'm sure some days you feel like that's what it is around here, and I'm pointing out the negatives, but it's just not. That's just not the way that I operate. But also I feel like it's more important to focus on the things that are positive. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't give the people listening to our podcast the impression that all of a sudden now, snap your fingers and you've got a job and you're off on your own and things are going great and there's not,
I'm still getting a lot of help. It's not been any less than it has been for several years now.
Mm-hmm.
What has changed is that, number one, I've got a job.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, they understand that there's limitations and issues that may pop up because of this quote-unquote disability.
Yep. Yeah.
And they do their best to work around that.
I love it that you did that because that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
Because how many times have I said, you'll do something and you're not bogged down and so affected by a particular, emotional experience, whatever. You're fine. You just, and I go, and who's got the disability?
Yeah.
As I'm kind of stuck, not being able to move forward. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, So I'm going to say something now, and I know that you're going to probably tease me about it, but one of the things that I thought of that when you were younger, and based on focusing on the positive for you. So here's what it is. Animals don't operate in good, bad, right, or wrong. And what they do is the owners take their lead from their owners' energy. So I say owners, and I use that term, but when we have dogs, we're parents.
Yeah.
yeah. So what happens is they don't. They pick up on energy, and thoughts are energy. So this is what I know about animals. I know that if, say, for example, somebody doesn't want their dog to go in the street, and they tell their dog, "Don't go in the street. Don't go in the street." And the next thing they know, they look out and their dog's in the street. They're freaking out, and the dog's going, "What? You said the street." Right? So what should happen in that case then is that somebody says to their dog, "Stay in the yard. Stay on the grass."
Yeah.
Again, I'm not it's
You talk to the animals. I just yeah.
I know. But it's the same thing. It's that what reaction do you want? What outcome do you want?
Yeah.
So I have focused your whole life on the positive. And when
Wait, are you calling me a dog? No, I know you're not.
No. Well, you know what? I think you know how I feel about dogs.
Yeah.
I did never met one that I just didn't absolutely fall in love with.
Yeah.
I think dogs are just awesome, and cats, and animals in general. Like Nana says that she thinks that I would be best suited just to be able to buy a whole bunch of land and just put all of the whatever animal it is that needs a place to go, give them a spot, and where they'll be safe and have place to live.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be pretty awesome. That'd probably make you crazy, wouldn't it?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. But anyway,
'cause you'd be trying to foster them off to me.
Oh my gosh. Probably yes. No.
Yeah. You're like, hey, you look like you could use a cat.
Yeah, that's true. I just saw one the other day that was listed that needed a home. I'm like, oh.
No.
Yeah. No?
No.
I know. Nana's allergic.
Yeah.
Nana's allergic, so we can't get one. But there's also a bunny.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I think I need them all. I need a goat. I need a donkey. I need a little pig. Wouldn't that be cool? Have a little pig, a pet pig, named Esther. No? Okay. See, I already have her named. You're looking at me with huge eyes. Here's my point. We got off on animals, which is always a danger. Here's my point with this, is that animals totally get the energetics of a situation. They totally get it. And it's not, within that context, they're not saying that it's good, bad, right, or wrong. They're picking up on the energy. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically how I raised you and your sister, which is...
Great.
Yeah, I know.
You raised us like animals.
I know. Which is...
You can't win.
Oh my gosh. Yes, but it's really... anybody that knows me knows how much I adore animals.
Yeah.
So it's actually not a negative comment. But really, it is that what you think about... Mm-hmm. And the actions that you take, they all hold energy.
They all hoard energy.
They all hold energy.
Yeah.
And so that's what I tried to do with you growing up, which is to foster that positive experience. Yeah, that those thoughts that yes, you can do what you want to do.
Yeah, and you'd always say that you could do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
As long as it wasn't swearing or anything else like that.
Well, as long as as long as it wasn't mean.
Yeah.
You know? Not that you had to be in a good mood all the time and feel like being nice all the time. You know, you could go in your room and scream and do whatever it was you needed to do. The point was, that yes, you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. And for a long time when you're growing up, the doctor's telling me what you couldn't do. I just didn't hold on to that like it was doctrine.
Right.
I thought that's their opinion, and at this point when we've come along, I've realized that, some of what they said, there's some truth to that. Some of it's true. And it's because, while it wasn't like a foregone conclusion in my mind when you were growing up, some of the things that they said would be the case kind of did take hold. It still doesn't mean that has to it's not set in stone.
Right.
And so it's still a process. And, so we kind of went off on a lot of things, but what I wanted to bring up is that I wanted to make it clear that we do our best for you to live your life as an individual, doing the things that you want to do in the way that you want to do it, to be productive, and to be a positive influence in your community.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't happen on your own.
Right.
And I should say this, that has not happened on your own. But it's always an effort to get you to a point where yes, these things happen for you, and you're able to, as my friend always says, it's that she'll call me up upset about something. She said, "Talk me off the ledge," and so I feel like that's a way to put it with you, is that I'm there as a sounding board. Mm-hmm. And help to calm you down, because I know you so well that I can help you do that.
I just had an image in my head.
What's that?
Of you're trying to calm me down by pulling on the leash.
Hey, your nephew has a leash.
Oh, jeez, he does.
He does. He has a little dinosaur backpack that hooks around on his chest. And I know some people are opposed to those.
Yeah.
But, man, I'd rather have him on a leash and be safe. You know what I mean? Like, stay with me, dude. Stay with me. So,
are you treating him with a positive reinforcement of animals?
I am. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I'm telling you what, when he's on his little backpack leash, he feels confident. He loves it. He walks like he owns the joint. Wherever we're going, when he's wearing that, because he's out of the basket, Yeah. He's only 3.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let him out of a basket. I'm not going to let him walk someplace,
without holding your hand or being on a leash.
Well, yes, and a leash comes in handy because he has a 2-year-old sister.
Yeah.
Well, she's going to be 2 the 16th of this month. So, yes, there's, make sure they're not in different directions. So it's got to be safe. So, I guess you can think of it that way. I'm raising like a little pup. You're shaking your head. I know.
There's a joke that Haley used to say.
What's that?
That you love the dog more than us.
Oh. Well, and I used to say, well, he doesn't talk back. Yeah, that's right.
Einstein talks back, though.
He does.
Oh,
Einstein's a little sassy thing, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh, he's awesome. So I'm going to wrap it up, but I just want to give you an opportunity to... So that happened at work, but how do you feel about the job now? How do you feel about work? Like, you've been doing it for...
month and a half, 2 months? If that?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because it was like off and on, more. It's part-time, so you're, maybe a couple times a week. Not always.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Is it nice nice to know that your boss understands you?
Yes.
Does that take a lot of pressure off? And anxiety, I should say. Does it relieve a lot of anxiety?
That I know that he'll be understanding? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes working with other people with autism, I mean, you know how I am at times.
Mm-hmm.
How I can be very stubborn and very, but why does it have to be this way?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I know that it bothers you that one individual in particular, when you're on the phone, when they're done talking, they just hang up.
They both do it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Instead of ending a conversation,
yeah.
They say what needs to be said, or once they hear what they needed to know, they hang up.
Yeah.
But even though you didn't know the conversation was over,
yeah.
At that point you did. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
Right. Right. They're good guys.
Yeah, they are.
Mm-hmm. And they do good work.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
even the window washing has a pattern to it.
How so?
First you have to get up top,
Mm-hmm.
which usually you have to use a pole for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mop kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we attach that to the pole. You do like half the window or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just one big piece, and if it's like 2 or 3 pieces, you do the top, middle, and then bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you're done with the top, you take a squeegee to it, and it's lines going down.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's lower down, you actually go left to right or right to left.
Mm-hmm. Which do you prefer?
Left to right, because I'm right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And
So do you support it with your left and guide it with your right, or how does that go?
usually at that point I don't need the pole.
Oh, okay.
Because it's low enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also have to make sure that the cloth that I use afterwards, after squeegeeing it,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't get wet. Like it picks up the moisture, but I have to make sure it doesn't get like soaking wet, because then it's unusable.
You just have to wring it out?
No.
Oh, you have to you have to use the squeegee before you use that enough so that it's not
Right.
really wet. Got it.
Right.
Okay. Right.
And it's just another pattern. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Cool. And that's soothing to you.
Yeah.
Just like when you do the pressure washing.
Yeah. And even things like singing
Mm-hmm.
have a pattern to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a beat
Mm-hmm.
or there's an offbeat.
That's why I recommended the other day
Yeah.
for you to sing
Yeah.
or to hum while you were doing this.
I wouldn't have been able to hear myself. I wasn't able to hear myself think with that thing going on.
But oftentimes it's that pattern
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
of that repetition.
Right. Which is why I tried to focus on the pattern of what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So you're sticking with it. It's
Yeah.
going well. You like it?
Yeah.
All right. Good deal. Good deal. I'm gonna. The owners of the company you work for are going to be on a podcast with me pretty soon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And we just have to get our schedules to mesh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I know that the main owner,
Mm-hmm.
his wife is on the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
and his son is on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he has a genuine understanding of your needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's a really, really nice guy, too.
He is. He is.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. Good. Well, anything else you'd like to share?
Nothing really comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thanks for treating me like an animal.
Anytime. Anytime.
For anyone on the spectrum, I'm joking.
Yes. Yes. Well, it may, except that I treat animals so
Yeah.
kindly and
Yeah.
gently and loving, so
Yeah.
it's not a bad gig. No. So anyway, everybody, thank you for listening. Do us a favor, if you would, wherever you're listening to us, if you would give us a 5-star review, that would be so appreciated. Any questions that you have, go to sonyaking.com, SONYAKING.com, and let us know what you have to think. Any questions you have, any recommendations.
Or if you just want to hire us for a speaking gig.
Yep, that too. Well, we appreciate you so much, and we will talk to you next time. Love ya.
Bye.